Hi guys and welcome back. So obviously you can probably tell by reading the title of this video that I'm going to be telling you guys how I got straight A's in high school while being a big procrastinator and how you can too. Yeah! Also, fun fact, today I just hit 10,000 subscribers, which is insane. Saying that sounds insane to me, like 10,000. What? Okay, sorry. You can probably tell I'm in a really good mood, so it's a good day to be filming. And I also do feel like this video is kind of reminiscent of my earlier videos where I would just sit down and spit some straight facts to you guys. I actually did quite a bit of research for this video, like on YouTube and on the little Google. I searched how to get straight A's as a high school student, and there were a lot of videos on this topic, and I watched like 3 or 4 videos and I read through like 2 or 3 websites, and to be completely honest and direct, I thought they were pretty shit. They were all stuff like
color code your notes,
plan out your time,
don't procrastinate,
keep in mind why you're doing this,
and study to really understand the material, not to just get good grades.
And I was like, this is the most stupid shit I've ever heard. And like, these have millions of views, so I don't understand how these are getting so many views.
Give yourself lots of time to study.
The number one step to getting straight A's is putting in effort.
Eliminate the C word from your vocabulary. Can't.
I just feel like all the tips that these people were giving were just obvious facts almost, and they're really intuitive. And actually, let me pull up one of these blog posts that I read, how I became a straight A student by following these 7 rules. And this guy was very accomplished. He double majored at Duke, graduated summa cum laude, never got a grade lower than an A- on a major exam apparently. But the tips that he gave, I just like, you'll see. Like, the first one was just always have a plan. So he basically was telling me, the reader, to keep a digital calendar and plan out your entire day, your whole weeks, your whole months, I guess, which I honestly don't think is very realistic for the majority of us, especially if you're not very organized. And oh, look here, rule 2 was be organized. So he was telling me to file all my stuff, be very organized in my homework and all that stuff. I'm not an organized person. I'm literally one of the most messy people I know in my life. Like, for example, look at this. Does this look organized to you? This is my math homework. It's not organized, okay? I don't have the time to organize my whole life out. The third rule was take care of your physical health. It's basically saying get good sleep, eat good food, and exercise. Again, very intuitive. Rule 4 was don't cram. Instead, use a periodic review system. You guys get my drift. Obviously, all of these tips are good tips, but I also feel like they're tips that 99% of the population already know about, and I think the problem lies in the implementation of these tips and finding the motivation and the will to actually use these tips rather than like the tips themselves being bad, if that makes sense. So in this video, I thought I would try to compile a list of tips that were less intuitive and I guess more geared towards normal people like me who aren't perfect people, who just automatically have the motivation to do their homework, automatically have the will to be productive. I am a very big procrastinator, so I know what it's like to not want to be organized, not want to do my homework, pushing off my homework, pushing off all my projects and my essays. But I personally think that I was able to, I wouldn't say take advantage of my procrastination, but rather have it work for me and not serve as a detriment to me in a way. So, sorry for the long intro. Long story short, this video is made for normal people like me who procrastinate. So let's get into it. Actually, just before we get into it, I just want to say to you guys, I already lied to you in this video. I did not have straight A's in high school. I had 1 B+ my freshman year in my math class. It was a horrible class, but we're just gonna ignore that in this video and in the title because I did graduate cum laude, I think that's what it's called, and also I got the Agripin at my school, which is like awarded to like the top 10 or 15 GPAs from junior and senior year, so yeah. Sorry for lying to you guys. Oh no. Let's just get into the tips now. Okay, so the first tip that I want to give to you guys is that you should be able to recognize at what times you do your most efficient and productive work. A lot of the YouTube videos and blog posts that I actually read online talked about how right after school you should get your homework over and done with so you don't have to worry about it anymore. But trust me, I've tried it and it fails every single time. I think everyone has different points in their day when they're the most productive, so I think you should take advantage of that. A lot of the tips I give in this video is going to be about taking advantage of what you're given, basically. I know from personal experience that when I try to do my homework at 3, 4, 5, even 6 p.m., what ends up happening like 100% of the time is I just stare at my notebook or homework or whatever I have in front of me for about 10 or 15 minutes tops, and then I get bored, so I go on TikTok, still sitting at my desk, and then soon enough 2 hours have passed and it's dinner time. So that whole situation ends up being a huge negative for me because at that point after dinner, I'm too tired from sitting at my desk and watching TikToks to actually do my homework. It would have been way better if I just accepted that I didn't want to do my work at 3, 4, or 5 p.m. and I just curled up in bed with my blankets and watched Netflix for 2 hours until dinner, because at that point after dinner, when I'm in my ideal productive time, which is after 7 or 8 p.m., I would have had the energy to do that homework because I spent that earlier time just resting my mind, if that makes any sense. And I guess another way to word this tip is to recognize when and when not to fight against your procrastination. If you know you're not gonna get work done in a certain time period, spend that time on stuff that you love to do. Spend that time on rewinding a little bit. Don't force yourself to do homework or try to be productive when you know that you're just gonna fail anyways. And the good thing is, if you do that, then you're way more likely to have the energy to actually do your homework later on. And the next tip that I have for you guys is to figure out what subjects you can multitask with. But first, let's talk about the root of procrastination. Why do we procrastinate? I don't know about you guys, but I procrastinate because I want to avoid doing a certain task, or I'm just too lazy, like that's all. I'm too lazy. And I feel like this tip kind of helped me combat that root of procrastination I just described. So what I mean by this tip is that you should figure out what subjects and what kinds of homeworks you can do and maintain a good workflow while still doing something entertaining like watching Netflix. For example, personally, I know that when I do my STEM class homework, like my math homework or my science homework, I can most of the time do that easily while still watching Netflix in the background. And I think a lot of this had to do with the fact that it just kind of dealt with a lot of numbers most of the time. So I didn't actually have sentences on a page that I had to like comprehend. But for my other subjects like English and history, I know that I cannot watch Netflix in the background while I'm reading a textbook or reading a novel, because when I've tried that before, my pace at which I read slowed down significantly. So I knew that Netflix was not helping me in the grand scheme of things. While I do think Netflix helped me when I was doing my STEM class homework, because it kept me entertained and kind of more on track and focused, which is kind of ironic, but it worked for me. And also, I'll add on to this that it also helps if the show that you're watching is a show that you already watched before, or it's kind of one of those sitcom-y shows where you don't really need to keep track of the plot really carefully. So shows like The Office, which is very generic, I know, The Simpsons, Friends, I've never watched Friends, Family Guy. I feel like, you know, shows in that realm are ideal shows to watch while you're doing your homework, because that serves more like background noise, I guess, rather than like something I need to focus on. And then the next tip that I have for you guys, I know it's very generic, but it's very true, and you should really listen to me when I say this. Please pay attention in your classes. Again, I know this is very generic, but trust me when I say that the more you pay attention in class, the less work you're going to have to do outside of that class. I don't know about you guys in your classes, but I know in my classes, there is not much for me to do to procrastinate. So to be honest, most of the time I just sucked it up and paid attention in class because there was nothing better to do. I knew that for me, I retained knowledge a lot better when I actually got that knowledge in the classroom rather than reading from a textbook. So yeah, I just sucked it up and listened, so I didn't have to study that much outside of school, and I could spend my time outside of school procrastinating even more and watching Netflix. Next tip. So I personally think that this tip will play like the biggest role in my straight A's minus that 1B plus in high school, and that is my ability to cram. I honestly think over the course of 4 years of high school, I managed to really nail down my cramming method to like 95% capacity. But what the heck, I'll share my cramming technique with y'all. Oh my god, I feel like I'm such a bad influence on some of these people. But you know, this is real life. This is what normal people are like. Normal people don't get 8 hours of sleep every single day and exercise every day and like organize everything with files, okay? So don't judge me. So basically, when it came to my cramming schedule, it usually started at around 9 or 10 p.m. the night before a big exam. And when I say big exams, I mean tests, but also like midterms and finals that covered like 6 months worth of material. Yeah, I would start cramming the night before at 10 p.m. And let me just preface this by saying that when it comes to cramming time, sleep goes out the window. It is not a priority when I'm in my cramming mode, okay? So for cramming, my techniques slightly differ between STEM classes and my humanities classes like English and history and stuff like that. So for my STEM classes, before an exam, a test, whatever, I would gather every single practice problem I got, or if it's a midterm or a final, every single old test that I already took, and do every single one of those problems. And I did not stop until I finished every single problem. And it's kind of similar with my humanities classes. For history in specific, a lot of the times I would be behind on the reading by like a month. So that'd be like 150 like huge ass textbook pages. But that did not stop me. When it came to cramming time, I felt like procrastination also kind of went out the window, because at that point my mind would kind of be in freak out mode. And when it's in freak out mode, it feels a need to like get shit done. And I do think I'm the most productive during those freak out modes and my cramming sessions. But anyways, back to what I was saying. For my history classes, if I was really behind on the reading, I would crack out my old reliable notebook and my G2 pen, and then I would start writing notes for all the reading that I missed. And yes, I would write notes for 150 plus pages, especially before my midterms or my finals. And I would not stop. I did not care if it took until 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. I did not stop until I wrote all of those notes. And then only when I wrote all of those notes would I go to sleep. I don't know what it is, but once I write those notes, I go to sleep and I wake up. That knowledge is like pretty well stored in here. Anyone who says that cramming the night before a test is useless, that's false, because I have finessed my way through multiple DBQs, LEQs, SAQs, in-class essays, whatever you want to say, even though I didn't do the reading until the night before the actual essays. I'm such a bad influence, oh my god. Also, I forgot to add to the STEM cramming part that when I was doing all these practice problems, I didn't really bother trying to learn the concepts very well. Honestly, when it comes to cramming mode and it's the night before the exam, you don't really have the time to sit there and really try to understand those concepts. So I just did a bunch of these practice problems to just nail down the technique and learn how to plug in the right numbers and get an answer. Because honestly, when it comes to high school and you have a lot of work to do, for me, honestly, my priority wasn't always really learning the material really well. It was to get a good grade on the test, so oops. But wait, the cramming does not stop there. After I would go to sleep and wake up, as soon as I would wake up, brush my teeth, I would just stare at my notes and read through every single line over and over again on my notebook. while I was getting ready, while I eat breakfast, while I'm walking to school, any like free space that I had, I would be reading those notes in between classes, during classes. I would just read those notes over and over again, and especially for history classes, this was so helpful. And let me tell y'all, when I would go into those LEQs or DBQs, a lot of that information, I would say like 75% of that information would stay in my brain, and that was honestly the only reason I got through AP Euro, APUSH, any history class basically. But yeah, and also for my STEM classes, to be honest, like my senior year math class, I finessed my way through that class so much. I understood so little of the concepts, but I just kind of learned how to plug in the right numbers, and that's how I was able to do well in the class. And then the last tip I have for you guys, dear God, please handwrite your notes instead of typing them. I have such strong opinions about this. I do not understand why people would choose typing their notes over handwriting them. Like, it's literally scientifically proven that handwriting your notes makes you retain the knowledge more than when you type them. So when I'm in English class and I see everyone on their computers typing their notes up, I'm like, what are you doing? I just don't understand. Let me tell you, for all 4 years of high school, for every single class that I took, I handwrote my notes. And yes, it is true that handwriting notes takes a lot longer than just typing them up, but also I do think that you save a lot of time in the long run, because for me personally, when I handwrite my notes, like just right after the first pass, already like 60 to like 65% of the information is already like stored in my brain, and it's just about getting that extra 35% into my brain after that. And I don't know what it is about reading my notes in my own handwriting, but the knowledge just goes into my brain so much better than if I would read my notes on a Google Doc form in like Times New Roman font. Also, I feel like having handwritten notes is so much easier for studying on the go. Like I said in my cramming ritual, I guess you can call it, I really like studying on the go while I'm in class, while I'm walking, while I'm on the bus, and it's so much easier to just whip out my notebook and just like see all my notes just on my notebook. And also in classes where they don't allow devices, it's easier to just whip out my notebook for another subject and study during class. And also, I want to note that when you're handwriting your notes for a class, you're forced to semi-process the information at least, and then kind of pick and choose what words you want to include in your notes and what you want to take out. And that way, when you have like your full notes, you have a really condensed version of all the information that you got. So it's going to be so much easier to review and study afterwards, since you don't have to read any filler words that you don't really care about. And actually, I think I have one more tip, and that is caffeine. Not even just coffee, caffeine in general. The thing is, I didn't think caffeine had that much of an effect on me, especially because when I drink coffee, I don't really feel that much of an energy boost. But I discovered something my senior year, the day before my math midterm. The thing is, my friends and I were pretty desperate at that point because it was like 11 p.m. and we hadn't started studying for our math midterm at all. So we took drastic measures and we got these like packets that you dissolve in water and it tastes like fruit punch or whatever. Well, these packets had caffeine in it. It was caffeinated. So I dissolved like 3 or 4 of these packets into my water and I chugged it. And let me tell you, like 15 minutes after, I was so wired and aware that I stayed up until like 3 a.m. just straight doing math problems. This is why I kind of don't agree with the whole, make sure to get 8 hours of sleep before a test, or last minute studying isn't going to help you that much, because that is what I did. I got like 3 hours of sleep that night before my math midterm, and actually when I woke up, I had like 2 more of these caffeine packets, and I was so wired during the exam, and guess what I got on the exam? I got a freaking 94 on the exam with 3 hours of sleep. So obviously for me, it worked. Cramming works for me. Little sleep works for me. But yeah, that is the end of the video. I feel like saying all of my tips out loud they're less legit than I made them out to be in my mind, because in my mind I thought these tips would be really helpful, but now like hearing myself say them out loud, they just kind of sound stupid and like bad advice that you should not take. But you know, this video can be a what I did during high school to get straight A's. Anyways, I hope these tips were semi-helpful for you, at least one of them. If you like this video, please like and subscribe and comment down below anything. I respond to almost all of my comments. And also thank you so much for 10,000 subscribers. Like that mind-blowing what? But yeah, that's basically it. And yeah, I'll see you guys soon. Bye guys.
So destroy the evidence, leave not a trace, burn it in paper trash.